The 2021 American Rescue Plan had some significant changes to the health insurance subsidy that people received through Covered California, and these are evident in the tax forms that the IRS has released and verifying some of the benefits that people received in Covered California. If you go to Form 8962 and the instructions, you'll see specifically what's new. And there is the unemployment compensation benefit that has been subtly added into the form, as well as the applicable federal poverty line percentages. And we'll go ahead and dive into those a little bit deeper. Now, if you are doing your taxes through a tax preparation software, you'll just be asked questions and everything will be kind of done behind the scenes. But if you kind of want to understand how all of this is working, you can go to Form 8962, but you really have to look and read the instructions to see how some of this stuff is taking place. So specifically, first off, unemployment compensation. If you or your family member in your household has received unemployment compensation for at least 1 week in 2021, that generates a larger subsidy. People who reported this through Covered California immediately saw a larger subsidy in their health insurance, which brought their monthly premiums down, and they were eligible for an enhanced silver plan because their income was artificially lowered to 138.1% of the federal poverty level, which essentially meant that their subsidy was equal to the second lowest cost silver plan. And we'll kind of get into the tables. But what if you didn't report that unemployment insurance, which many people didn't? The question was, will I be able to take that credit when I do my taxes? And the answer is yes. If you look at the 2021 Form 8962 for Tom taxpayer or you, the first question, a conditional question, asks if anyone has received unemployment compensation. If you check that, then the instructions, some of the different instructions within the form and how you calculate it apply to you. And of course, they mention, make sure that you keep documentation that you did receive unemployment insurance. Now, let's dive right into an example to see how this kind of works. Now, Form 8962, it calculates what your annual subsidy should be for health insurance, and it's centered around the second lowest cost silver plan. So, Tom taxpayer has a modified adjusted gross income of $38,640. That is equal to 300% of the federal poverty level. And we have these new curves from the American Rescue Plan, and that means that Tom's consumer responsibility, his fair share, is 6%. And you find that out through an applicable table. The applicable figure is essentially the consumer responsibility. So 300% is what his income equals to, 300% of the federal poverty level. He has a applicable figure or consumer responsibility of 0.06 or 6%, meaning he should contribute no more than $2,318.40 for the second lowest cost silver plan. And then you see over there, that would be about $193.20 per month. Then the annual calculation, line 11, for all of the annual numbers, perhaps his health insurance was $24,000 a year before any subsidy. The applicable second lowest cost silver plan was $15,000. His fair share annual contribution, $2,318, for a maximum subsidy of $12,681.60 to be applied to any health plan that he selected. Now, the far left column, the annual advance, that would be the number that Covered California or healthcare.gov sent to the health carriers in your behalf during the year. So, well, let's look at line 5, because this is where it kind of gets tricky. If Tom checkmarked that he did receive unemployment insurance, we go to the instructions and it says that if you are approved, received unemployment compensation for any week, enter 133 on line 5. So 133 corresponds to 0. Now, it's a little bit confusing because if you go to the applicable figure table, you'll see that there is nothing below 150% of the federal poverty level. But 133% of the federal poverty level, that's an artificial number because Tom received unemployment insurance, is 0. So then Tom goes in, puts in 133 into his household income percentage as a percentage of the federal poverty level, which means his applicable figure is 0. His fair share annual contribution is 0 and a 0 monthly contribution. So if his annual enrollment is still $24,000 for the particular plan that he chose, and that may have been a silver, gold, or platinum plan, I don't know. The cost of the second lowest cost silver plan didn't change. It was still $15,000, but Tom doesn't have to make anything towards it. Therefore, his annual subsidy is equal to the cost of the second lowest cost silver plan. And then you go through and depending on what he received from the exchange, and that gets calculated down below when you're reconciling if you will be receiving additional credit or need to pay some back. In Tom's situation, he is eligible for a subsidy of $15,000 based on the unemployment insurance, artificially lowered income, which makes a 0 contribution to the second lowest cost silver plan. However, he didn't report that he was receiving unemployment insurance during the year, and he only received potentially advanced premium tax payments of $12,681. So he is entitled to an additional tax credit of $2,318. Now, if you reported the unemployment insurance in covered California, you were receiving the higher subsidy. So this would probably all be hopefully even out and it would just be a wash. Because even if your income is really high, if you just had a great windfall in 2021 and your income was $100,000, because you had unemployment insurance, it is still the 133% of the federal poverty level and then the following calculations after that. Now, another important part of the American Rescue Plan is the repayment of the excess premium tax credits. There had been a 400% federal poverty line cliff, as we called it. So if you earned $1 more than 400% of the federal poverty level for your household size, you had to repay all of the advanced premium tax credit subsidies back to the IRS. That's been done away with. Now, the maximum is 8.5%. So you can make a whole bunch of money, and as long as the second lowest cost silver plan annually is greater than 8.5% of your household income, you will receive a subsidy for the difference between its percentage and 8.5%. Then, of course, if your income goes up so high that the second lowest cost silver plan is 8% of your annual household income, then you're not eligible for a subsidy. And if you did receive subsidies, you will have to pay those back. So it is a little bit confusing, but if you go to the applicable figure table, it is also noted if the amount on line 5 is 400 or more, 400% of the federal poverty level, your applicable figure is 0.0850, 8.5%. So that's good. That's good for a lot of people. We don't have that 400% cliff. And that's also echoed, in the beginning of the Form 8962 instructions that they no longer have that cliff. So it can be a little bit confusing when you go through and do the numbers. That's kind of how it works in general. I'm sure there's some other scenarios out there because I'm just kind of doing a simplified version. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave them below. You can go to my website, Insure Me Kevin, and get my contact information, and I'll try and help you out. I don't give tax advice. I'm just trying to put out information so people understand how these subsidies are calculated and why you didn't get a subsidy in 2020, but you're getting a big subsidy in 2021 because you had unemployment, but now the unemployment special subsidy goes away for 2022. But you can still earn more than 400% of the federal poverty level and receive a subsidy in 2022. So that's a lot, but for Insure Me Kevin, I am Kevin Canals, and we look forward to talking to you in the future. Take care.